Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicle Speaks.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
Look at it.
Tiffany Aisha Henyard, born June 18, 1983, is the first and youngest woman mayor in Dolton, Illinois, in its 130-year history. Now, although that's a feat within itself, that's not what she's most notably known for. Now, we'll get into all of that in just a second, but let's first talk about Dolton. Now, Dolton is a village in Cook County, Illinois, and according to the 2020 census, the population was roughly over 21,000 people at that time. Of those 21,000 people, 90% are African American. So with Tiffany calling herself the people's mayor and being a Dolton-born resident herself, you would think that she would actually be for her own people, but sadly that is not the case.
A tense meeting in Dolton tonight as residents voiced their frustrations with the mayor and recent allegations against her. Mayor Tiffany Henyard is accused of using village money for personal reasons as Dolton's unpaid bills have piled up. Now, some village trustees are calling for a federal investigation into her dealings. Henyard has denied the allegations, but tonight residents calling out the mayor.
We don't need anything else saying that what you're claiming to do for the village. We need accountability. We need information on the finances.
I'm asking that you either step down or the trustees for the village of Dolton that voted you in to vote you out.
So after those public comments, Henyard responded, calling the accusations false.
It's facts over fiction for me. So I will state facts, I will show receipts, and I will make sure that our community is back together as one. It amazes me how people can get together and come to a board meeting and just have hate in their heart and not love on each other.
Needless to say, the people of Dolton think she's slicker than a can of oil, and they are not messing with her.
A motion to approve the purchase of 5 residential properties, 1 commercial property from the Cook County Land Bank. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a motion and second? Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We wouldn't trust you to buy penny candy. If you think we about to let you buy properties,
I could care less. You pick your vote, choose what you want. This is, again,
the village of Dolton is not in the real estate business. We're not buying no properties.
Okay, then why y'all motion and second it then? Don't motion and second.
We had a discussion because we want the people to know why we're not. Because you would get up here and lie and be like, they don't want to buy the properties and they don't want to spend no money. So we motion and second, like we can do in Robert's Rules of Order, and discussion. The discussion is, we don't trust you to buy penny candy, and no, we're not buying no property because the village of Dolton is not in the business of property. Y'all done already stole about 60 houses, so ain't nobody gonna deal with you buying no property. So that's the end of my discussion. I second that motion.
Okay, so just so you know, for the records, is I tell y'all to go to classes, go to conference, learn. The way it works as it relates to property, for those that do want to know how it works, is the board has to take the property in. The board is the one that's over the property here in our village. So she is so naive to the fact.
I'm not naive.
Know that, and she want to say, don't trust me. It don't work that way. The board is the one.
Calm down, please. Quiet, please.
To take property in.
Ma'am.
All we do is
quiet, please.
Now, Fox 32 learned that Tiffany funneled thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money to private foundations that bear her name for cancer. She also spent thousands of dollars for a group bicycle ride to Springfield in support of breast cancer, although Henyard admitted that the bill was never formally filed and lawmakers were not in session. And let's not forget, the people of Dolton were very upset that Tiffany spent over $150,000 of taxpayers' dollars on a leased 2023 Chevy Tahoe.
I sat here and looked at a lease that y'all spent $149,000 for one of them trucks. You make absolute, that's like when you 19 years old and you go get a car and the interest rate 27%. That makes absolutely no sense. You're not making great finance. Excuse me?
Please stay facts.
But let me tell you, here it is, dated December 27, 2022, the cash price of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe, $93,216.71. Interest and APR, $55,929.49. Total lease price, $149,146.20. Tell me if it's not facts, because your signature is all on it.
I don't see that.
Okay, but you want me to pass?
I don't.
All right.
I'll
But
get my
at the
statement in a
at
few
the
minutes
end
when
of
you
the
finish.
day, it's not about going back and forth with you. It's about making financial decisions that is in the benefit of everybody and just not one person. And you can't seem to understand that.
Lastly, she and her administration spent over $100,000 in trips last year. $26,000 of that was for her and her entourage to take a trip to Vegas for an economic development conference. Of that $26,000, $24,000 was paid for by the residents of Thornton Township.
Every single resident. Pay me what you owe me.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Money has always been a huge point of contention with the residents of Dolton and the way Tiffany Henyard spends. However, this past March, the rumor mill began to buzz around something way more sinister going on. It seems like that lavish trip to Vegas may be the very thing that brings down not only the mayor, but a very important key player of hers. In a lawsuit dated April 8, 2024 in Cook County, Illinois, an ex-administrative assistant for the village of Dolton, Finia Dukes, and law enforcement officer Byron Miles filed suit against the village of Dolton, Thornton Township, Mayor Tiffany Henyard, and Andrew Holmes. Now, Holmes, seen here, was and is a trustee for Dolton. That means he's still working there. So here's what went down. In May of 2023, Tiffany Henyard and a crew of 13 flew to Vegas for a conference. Now, Officer Miles was ordered to attend with another officer to protect Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Finia Dukes was also there as one of the assistants for Henyard. On the last day of the trip, most of the members of the entourage attended a dinner. Finia and Officer Miles were both there. Now, Finia was also celebrating her birthday and asked the crew if they wanted to hang out after dinner. Everyone said no except for Trustee Holmes. Now, Finia didn't think anything of it. He's older. She called him Unc. She didn't think anything of it. She was like, okay, cool. At least I'm going out with someone I can trust. He's a male and he's going to make sure that I get back safely. Unfortunately, she was wrong on that. Now, at some point during that evening, she started feeling disoriented. But it wasn't like, I drank too much feeling. She was feeling lightheaded. She felt like the ground was moving, and then she ended up blacking out, and she couldn't recall anything else that happened until the next day. So the next morning, Trustee Holmes calls Officer Miles, which they never really spoke on the phone before. They never kicked it. So Officer Miles answers the phone like, hello? So Holmes sounded inebriated, and he starts talking about the things he's done while on this trip, and many of these things included things of a sexual nature. So y'all gotta think about it. Officer Miles is like, is he really calling me a police officer? This old man, he's gotta be far too gone. So Officer Miles lets him continue to talk, and he talks himself right into some trouble. Now, Holmes made a reference to him engaging in sexual activities with a Dolton Thornton employee. That employee happens to be Finia Dukes. Now, during this conversation, he also suggested that Dukes may not have had the ability to consent and or did not provide consent for this sexual activity. So he's openly admitting to taking advantage of her. Now, during this phone conversation, Holmes asked Officer Miles, do you have an iPhone? To which Officer Miles says yes. So Holmes then decides to FaceTime Officer Miles. Holmes is old, he's looking tired, his shirt is off, it's just a lot of stuff going on. He then pans the phone around to show a half-dressed woman, and Officer Miles sees that this woman is Phinia Dukes. He then moves the camera to start showing parts of Phinia's private parts and then starts removing and moving clothing. Officer Miles requested that Holmes disconnect the call. Now, Phinia wakes up the next morning and she notices that she's in Holmes's room, and she's embarrassed as she believes she has blacked out and she doesn't remember anything from the night before. Now, she's disoriented and she's trying to look for her belongings and can't find her wallet, which included her ID. So now she's freaking out, thinking, how in the world am I going to get home back on this plane without my ID? Now she starts feeling a little discomfort, but she's like, it's probably just my menstrual cycle, because she knows Unc, aka Trustee Holmes, wouldn't have engaged in inappropriate activity with her. Besides, they were never sexual before. So she calls Officer Miles and tells him about her not being able to locate her wallet, and he tries his best to be able to help her find it. So shortly after returning back to Dolton, Officer Miles continues as his role in security detail. Now, sometime later, Trustee Holmes speaks to Officer Miles again about his sexual activities while in Vegas, and he admits to having unprotected sex with Phinia. Now, based on prior conversations with Phinia, Officer Miles starts to feel like Phinia is unaware that any of this even went on that night. So because she was feeling discomfort, he advised her that she should seek medical care and that he had info he needed to provide to her. Now, Officer Miles met with her and told her everything. Now, although she was distraught, she decided that she wanted to speak with the mayor. So Officer Miles, as security detail for Tiffany Henyard, picked her up and took her to the meeting spot to meet with Phinia. So there was no one else in attendance, just the mayor, Phinia, and Officer Miles. Phinia explained that the last night while she was in Vegas, she believes that Trustee Holmes put something in her drink. She became unsteady, she lost her balance, and she blacked out. She didn't remember anything until the next morning and would have never agreed to relations with Trustee Holmes. He was subsequently older than her. She was not attracted to him, and she called him Unc. She then tells Mayor Henyard that Holmes admitted to Officer Miles that he had unprotected sex with Dukes. Henyard then asked Officer Miles his side of the allegations. Officer Miles describes everything that he could remember, and he also brought the communications. That's the calls, that's everything. Henyard was in shock, but she then asked Officer Miles, why would Holmes call you? Officer Miles was like, I don't know, that's your people. Mayor Henyard then tells Phinia, you know, if this information gets out, I would be ruined, and all of the work that I've done would be lost. She asked Phinia, is that what you want to happen to me? Phinia's like, I don't want to ruin your projects and everything that you've done. So then Henyard specifically tells Duke in front of Officer Miles that she would take care of it and handle it, and Duke should trust her. So then Henyard calls her boyfriend Kamal Woods, and she tells him to meet them at the meeting place. So he ends up coming up there. Phinia is looking like, what is he supposed to do? He doesn't work for the township. He doesn't work for the village, but she trusted Henyard. You know what? She said she's going to get it done. She's going to get it done. Now, after the meeting, Mr. Woods, the boyfriend, approached the officer, Officer Miles, and made a comment like, none of this would have come up if it wasn't for you. And Officer Miles didn't know how to take it. Like, are you saying that in a good way, or are you saying it in a bad way? Now, shortly after the meeting, Phinia was advised that she needed to go on leave. She needed to take some time off. She was like, look, I don't feel like I need to take any time off. What did I do wrong? They advised her that she would be on leave, and then she finds out that leave is unpaid, and it's listed under FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. Now, from my understanding, in order to request leave under FMLA, the employee has to request that, not the employer. However, she's stating the employer requested it for her, and again, it's unpaid. So when she subsequently asked when she can return back to work, she was stonewalled for a period of time, and they ultimately told her that she could not return without a doctor's note advising it was appropriate. But considering she didn't use a doctor's note to get out of work, what type of doctor would she need to see to go back? And she asked that question. They had no answers for her. She was ultimately terminated from both Thornton and Dolton as well. Since then, she has not been able to find comparable employment. Now, after Officer Miles had the meeting with Henyard, Woods, and Dukes, he was advised that he was being removed from the mayor's security detail and returned to patrol duty, so he was demoted. In the months following, he was subjected to a host of retaliatory actions for speaking truthfully and coming forward as a witness of what he believed was sexual harassment, exploitation of Ms. Dukes, and a hostile work environment and possible criminal conduct. Other members of Henyards' detail that were once cool with Miles told Miles that they were no longer allowed to speak with him. October of last year comes around, so it's Halloween, and he was told by one of his superiors that he needed to come to a Halloween event. Now, although that was his day off, he did what he was ordered to do. Now, while he was there handing out candy and participating with the Halloween event, he then saw Trustee Holmes. They said nothing to each other, but they did exchange eye contact. Trustee Holmes made a quick phone call, and shortly after, Officer Miles was advised that the mayor would be in attendance as well and that he needed to leave and serve a patrol function. He was like, look, this is my day off. I don't even have my gun. How am I going to serve patrol? The next day, he was notified by a member of the command staff that he was required to attend a meeting with leadership and that he needed to bring his work credentials, which means his police badge and his work ID. He was like, you know what? Anytime this happens, that means they're getting ready to fire us. He then contacted his union rep and his job was saved. Then January 1st, 2024, Miles was involved in an accident where the suspect collided with Miles' police vehicle and it caused him significant damage. His back was hurting, his neck was hurting, so he ended up making an appointment with his primary physician after going to the emergency room day of. Although his doctor did not want him to, 3 days later, he was advised by his superior that he needed to show up to work within 1 hour. When he advised he wasn't feeling well, they said, look, either you come in or don't come in ever again at all. When he got to work, he was told that he would be on light duty. He sat at his desk, but he was in so much pain that he could not continue. He ended up being taken to the emergency room. The emergency room doctors told him he could not go back to work until January 9th, but on January 8th, he saw his primary care physician who examined him and told him not to go back to work until the 23rd. That same day, his supervisor called him stating that he needed to see the company physician. He stated he was in pain. He was not supposed to go anywhere, but he ended up going anyway. When he got there for that appointment, they gave him a letter stating they could not see him based on the note provided by his primary physician. Phinia is suing for violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act. She is also suing for assault and battery against Holmes. She is also suing for civil remedies of non-consensual dissemination of private sexual image act, and both Phinia and Officer Miles are suing for violation of Illinois Human Rights Act. So pretty much what they're saying is they were discriminated against. They were treated wrongfully because of the sexual harassment that went on and them being able to talk about it. Because they talked about it, now they're retaliating against them. Miles has been demoted, passed over for promotion, and both Phinia and Officer Miles respectfully request the Honorable Court to get back pay, front pay, punitive damages, attorney fees, prejudgment interest, expenses, and other costs. Okay, so trigger warning, Phinia breaks down into tears as she speaks about what's happening. She was first asked what happened in Vegas.
This is our last night in Vegas. When we clock out, isn't anybody hitting the strip with me? You know, it's my birthday. And everybody said no, or they had something else to do but Andrew. Miles did say that if he's done doing whatever he was doing, you know, he'll catch up with us. Okay, so fine, but I at least knew I got a man with me, I'm gonna make it home. I ain't even gotta worry about try to go on the strip by myself. I legitimately thought that, you know, I was gonna make it home. Until my last memory was me waking up in his room.
Phinia was asked what is making her speak out about this now, and she responded by saying this.
Why not now? Right? And you'll hear so many stories of, oh, well, she waited 20 years and she waited 30 years. I knew if it was ever happened to me, absolutely not. That I knew justice needed to come immediately, and that's why. So it might seem like it's a now for you, but this has been a long journey for me already. And I've already put my suffering aside. I put my depression aside. I've worked on all that. I did my praying on if I should be sitting in front of you today saying my story. And I'm ready. That's why now. And I'm not just fighting for me no more. I realize that I'm fighting for every woman that's been in my position. I'm fighting for a sister that doesn't have a voice. I'm fighting for a sister that's scared. I'm fighting for a sister who doesn't have a sister. I'm fighting, not just for me.
Tiffany was then asked if there was anything that she would like to say to the world.
I would like to say thank you, Officer Miles, for being my hero. You're the only person that stood up for me, opened your mouth, had the dignity to put everything that you had aside, your whole life, your whole personal life, for somebody that you didn't even know. You honored the badge that you vowed for, and I appreciate you for that. And I pray to God that you get infinite blessings, because you deserve that. And I thank you so much for even being a human being, not even just a police officer. You felt what was right, you felt what was wrong, and you stood on that, and you made it to the end to help me. And not only me, now you're helping so many other people. So thank you so much, so much.
Andrew Holmes has denied all allegations, but since there is video proof, we will have to see how this works out for him. Now, the FBI is currently investigating Dolton Village Hall amid all of these corrupt allegations. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was recently hired by Dolton Village Board to investigate Mayor Henyard and her alleged mishandling of funds. She is also tasked with finding millions in unpaid bills and the lavish Las Vegas trip, mostly paid for by taxpayers' dollars.
Oh, it's veto power. So how dare you think you could come in someone's town and start working or doing something, even though we sent something stating it's illegal. We cited the code and everything in here, and she will not be paid for services.
Now, in past motions that the mayor has vetoed, the trustees turn around and vote to override her. That did not happen tonight, but is something that could take place at the next village board meeting, which is coming up on May 20th.
This story is absolutely crazy. The corruption that's going on doesn't even seem real. It's so much that we did not get a chance to talk about that we will talk about in a subsequent video. However, I just wanted to make sure that we got Fania's story out. People needed to hear that. Other survivors needed to hear that. Her story needed to get out, so I wanted to get that out. But what I want to do is hear from you. What do you think about everything going on in the village of Dolton and Miss Tiffany Henyard? Leave a comment, and you know how we do. We will talk about it down below. Talk to you guys later. Bye. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my new episodes.